Hi guys, welcome to our presentation today. Today we are going to present to you this week's theme on the uses and gratification theory. First, Fauwe and Matthijs will both be talking about the Katz, Blumer, and Gurevich text, while Fauwe talks about the main objectives of the text by explaining more in detail on how the theory works, so about the main ideas and concepts of the uses and gratification theory. Matthijs will go further in depth on the other interesting findings of the text itself. So answering why the research on this theory is so important in the study of media and generally in our everyday lives. The other half of our presentation will be focusing on our case study, which is actually the research made on the uses and gratifications of social networks for men who have sex with men. The findings and method carried out for this research will be presented by Sander. And before coming to the conclusion, I will quickly sum up and explain why our case study relates to this week's theme of uses and gratification.
Okay, so I'll start by explaining the uses and gratification theory real quick. It's a very interesting perspective on the media that we use, and it has actually two central questions which they try to answer. Why do we as an audience use media, and what needs do we need gratified? Do we need gratified by this media? It has a few assumptions, the model. It assumes that the audience is an active member and actively participating, that they have in linking the media choice and the need for gratification that lies within the audience member. The media that they use competes with other sources of gratifications. So doing an activity with other friends, for example. It assumes that individuals are self-aware of what they're doing and where their interests lie, and their value judgments of the media can only be assessed by the audience who uses the media. How the theory actually works, it's that an audience member or a person identifies that they have needs, which can lie in one of four categories: personal relationships, personal identity, surveillance, or diversion. They need to gratify these needs, so they seek media to do so. Then they use this media to gratify those needs, and afterwards assess if this has been completed. If it has, then they continue using that media to gratify those needs, and if it doesn't, they seek another media, and the whole process is done over again until they find the media source or the media content that gratifies the needs that they have.
Now I will touch upon the most important findings of the paper by Katz, Blumer, and Gurevich. I will start with the four functions of media. They can be grouped in diversion, personal relationships, personal identity, and surveillance. Diversion can be seen as passing your time by, for example, simply watching your favorite TV show. Personal relationships can substitute companionships. An example of this would be relating to your favorite character in a show. For me, this would be Mike Ross from Suits. Moving on to personal identity. This needs is to reinforce your own values and beliefs. An example of this could be reading self-help books. Then finally, surveillance, which can be explained as the search for information. Typical forms of this media would be textbooks, for example, for a course. Besides different functions of media, the paper also discusses how gratifications can be derived from the media. In this theory, media content, exposure to media per se, and the social context are central. Media content has always been recognized gratifying, but the other two need some explanation. Exposure per se can be used to fulfill the need to pass time by, for example, reading a book. The content of the book does not really matter for passing your time. Simply reading already passes your time. Then a social context that typifies the exposure to a media. For example, going to the cinema would be sitting in a cinema hall with different people. This setting could already satisfy your need to be with other people. As such, each medium offers a combination of these three factors: content, typical attributes, and typical exposure situations. Finally, the researchers have concluded that almost any type of content may serve practically any type of function. You move to the next slide, please. Yes. Another interesting finding of the researchers is the fact that gratification research has focused on the so-called media-related needs instead of all human needs. Therefore, the authors argue it is important to study all human needs to be able to relate them to the media and how these needs can be gratified. Media-related needs are the needs that have been satisfied by media, and thus the connection between gratification and these needs is easily made. However, to make a connection between all human needs and how they are gratified by the media, researchers must study all human needs, and not only these media-related needs. Then finally, the paper also brings light to the power that we as an audience over the media. Simply put, if we feel that the media doesn't satisfy our needs, we will stop using it and the media will be discontinued. I will give you an example, which you can already see on the slide. We all remember Vine. At one point, all of us used Vine, and then after a point, none of us used Vine anymore. And then the app was discontinued, and because it wasn't profitable anymore. And this shows really well that once a medium doesn't satisfy the needs of the public anymore, we can just get rid of it. And that really shows the power of media and the audience.
I will be talking about the paper by Brandon Miller from 2013, They're a modern-day gay bar, exploring the uses and gratifications of social networks for men who have sex with men. And it's mainly about the gratifications that they're trying to satisfy when they use these apps. The paper's main objective is it wants to see why exactly these men use these apps, what reasons they have, and also it wants to know whether or not they succeed and if they are satisfied after using these apps.
As explained before, the use and gratification theory is an approach to understanding why and how people actively seek out specific media to satisfy specific needs. Our case study in this case has explained the motives behind the usage of these dating apps, with the specific media being mobile social networks for men who have sex with men. So what are the motivations for their consumption? First, it's from seeking safety. So thanks to the setting and the benefits social media brings, as mentioned in the text, many participants of the study shared that social networks offer them a safer environment in which to express their attraction and desires. Also, since it is an online community, these men are able to meet people with similar interests or people who are like-minded. This makes the users feel understood, closer to one another, and this increases the sense of connectivity. Secondly, it's the need for control. Users can control what information they want to share and who can view it. For example, they can choose how their profiles will appear to others and choose if they want people to see their real age or not, interest, hobbies, etc. In this way, online dating apps, of course, also allows people to see information about the person of interest in advance. Hence, it is the advantage of controlling, or in other words, being able to choose with more certainty who you plan on dating that makes dating apps so appealing. Third, it's the easiness. Opposing to the offline world, finding a potential partner on these specific social networks is easier and more convenient. This is thanks to the transparency and clear intentions set that these dating apps have. Fourth is accessibility and mobility. Online platforms give one the ability to access no matter where you are, so it is even more encouraging for those who live in places with few people that are alike. In other words, no queer spaces or online networks. Online networks are therefore seen as a positive alternative to real-life places where the queer communities are living in. Furthermore, with GPS-based technology, it is easier to find people who are either near you or live in a totally different continent, depending on your preferences and whom you want to meet. And finally is versatility. With clear intentions being set on these specific social networking sites, there are a range of possible relationships one can choose from. Some individuals consume dating apps with the intention of merely looking at people for eye candy, but some others use it for their sexual aspects.
Now, in what the paper found in its results, it tried to find out if men were actually gratified, and the conclusion it came to was, by and large, no, mostly. What it found is it didn't go into detail of which of the gratifications May just mentioned were actually fulfilled, except for that it mentioned that there were a few men that in versatility wanted more out of these apps than just dating. That it found that some of them also wanted different kind of relationships, such as friendships, and they didn't find that. But its main result that it found found in its lack of gratification is that most men who use these apps, when asked about how they felt about them afterwards, had negative emotions associated with them, more so than people who had positive or mixed emotions. From that, they conclude that while they had certain needs gratified, the ones that they came to gratify were not in the end what they got, and they got different things out of them. Even if they still used them and continue to use them, they were still in the end somewhat unhappy with them.
To sum up, we first discussed the general uses and gratifications theory, where we saw that media has different sorts of functions. Media can gratify needs in different ways, and one medium can satisfy multiple needs. This last point was further confirmed by the case study on mobile social networks for men who have sex with men. This specific example showed us how one medium was used to satisfy several different needs. Moreover, this case study has shown that there exists a difference between needs sought and needs obtained. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.